Well, we're back with Dave Gervino from the DuPage County Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Management. And Dave's going to tell us about helping those with functional needs prepare for emergencies. And functional needs, is that a new term? Well,
we used to refer to people who had maybe limited mobility or other types of physical or even mental impairments as having special needs. But the newer terminology that's being used now is people with access and functional needs.
And that could be anything. That could be physically or mentally.
That's correct. That's correct.
So these people are supposed to be. Are you supposed to know where they're at or who they are, particularly if it's a neighbor or something like that?
Sure. So I think all of us have friends or neighbors or relatives who might fall into this category, who would be the most vulnerable among us if there were to be a disaster. So someone with significant medical challenges, or again, someone who maybe is on some type of life-sustaining equipment, like they're on a ventilator or something like that, or someone who might be in a wheelchair, for example, and have trouble evacuating their home. Now, it's important to recognize, I think, that you can take two people with the exact same physical challenges, for example, and they may function totally differently. One person, for example, who's blind, for example, may function very well day to day independently with, just like you or I would, whereas someone else may, for whatever reason, function with a caregiver and not be as independent. So one of the things that we talk about when we're discussing working with people who have access and functional needs is self-determination. So speaking to that person and finding out what are they comfortable doing on their own, what might they need assistance with, and certainly in a disaster, that's something that's overwhelming for any of us, but someone with access and functional needs, they might need some additional assistance, and that's what we wanted to talk about today.
I would think that would be important for a neighbor, because your neighbors sometimes, they're closer to your home than your family member or a friend. They have to travel to get there to you, where a neighbor could just walk over the lawn and see, are you okay?
Exactly, and that's something we really try to drive home, I think, in this program, and here in Addison specifically, is the importance of knowing your neighbor. I mean, that was one of the main concepts between the National Night Out event, which is a big event that's coming up here in a few months, where you go outside and you meet your neighbors and you get to know them. Because you're right, you could have someone who their nearest family member is in another state. So it's important that when there is an emergency, whether it be something like the blizzard we had a couple of years ago, or flooding, or something else, a prolonged power outage like we had just last year in July, that people check on each other, especially check on neighbors of yours that might have these access and functional needs.
Well, you said it right there. In those times when you have a power outage, that means the traffic lights are out too. Traveling by car will take you longer to get someplace. So if you're trying to get to your loved one who is involved in this disaster, it's going to take you a long time. That's why somebody who could walk from one door to the other could get there a lot faster.
Absolutely, and the thing is, now that we have more and more advanced technology when it comes to medical care, a lot of people are now living at home and living with treatments and situations that previously would have only been accomplished in a hospital. So people are living at home who are on ventilators, respirators, other types
even
of
oxygen.
Exactly. And so if the power is disrupted, or if mail delivery is disrupted, people may not be getting their delivery of much needed supplies. So that's why it's really important to check on your friends and neighbors, again, with access and functional needs, and in general, to check on people and make sure they're okay after disaster.
Well, you have to be kind of nice to your neighbors, because you never know when you need them. But even so, how far do you carry it out? Like, do you leave a key with the neighbor next door because the person that you want to make sure is safe maybe can't function that well, and at least someone could get into the house if they haven't seen them in a day or a day and a half or something? You're wondering, are they okay? You knock on the door and nobody answers. At what point do you call the police or call the fire department? What do you do if you can't get a hold of anybody?
Right.
In the house.
And I think it's a case-by-case basis. Some people would be okay leaving a key with some of their neighbors, and other people wouldn't, and justifiably so. So I think that's a case-by-case basis. But the one thing I would want to point out is there are some online registries. If people go to our website at protectdupage.org, there are a couple of registries where you can sign up, or you can sign up someone on their behalf who might fall into this category, who might need a little more assistance if there were an evacuation that needed to take place or a prolonged power outage. You know, we saw that during the July 1st storms. It knocked out power here in Addison from Sunday morning all the way for some residents till Thursday night. Yeah. And so what we did is we have this online registry. We provided it to the police department, and they worked with volunteers who went door to door to check on people. So that's a system that people can sign up for. It's called Operation Helping Hand, and they can get more information on our website at protectdupage.org.
Well,
and I think it would behoove those who are taking medications to maybe have a supply set aside for maybe 3 days or something like that, that they can just grab with them, and if they have to get out of their house that they're in for some reason, at least they've got their medication for a couple of days.
Going. And they might, in the time that they have whatever their reserve, they might be able to obtain a refill because they'd have the information or something in their...
Exactly. You know, especially in today's day and age where so many of us are living paycheck to paycheck, and prescriptions can be expensive depending on what type of coverage you have. It's really important to not wait until the last day to get that prescription filled, so you always do have a couple of days of reserves.
And save the bottle, and you could put extras in there for your reserve.
That's right. And you also want to have a list of your medications, the name of the medication and the dosage, not just that you take high blood pressure medication, but the name of that medication. Yeah, how often you take it.
Yeah, so maybe as you save the vials that become empty, keep a couple of them just to put a few things in it that you can have.
Because your prescription number is on there, everything you need.
That's right.
So
so be kind to your neighbors. You
and
might
to yourself.
know when you're going to need them. As far as disaster goes, I know I brought you a magazine.
Yeah, this is great. This is a great...
Talks about 52 different ways to survive disasters, and it was very interesting, Dave, as I was going through it. Much of what you've told us is definitely in here, but one of the things that struck me is that if you're getting a house and you're thinking of buying a house, is you can check with FEMA to see if that house is in a floodplain, because that's going to increase the cost of that house because you have to buy flood insurance.
That's correct. You can go to floodsmart.gov. That's floodsmart.gov, and that's the FEMA flood website. You can find out information about flood insurance there, as well as floodplain maps. And I think if you're looking at a house, don't just talk to the realtor, but take a moment to go to the neighbors on each side and across the street and talk to them. Because one of the things I found in July 2010 during the floods is I went to a lot of homeowners and spoke with them, and they said, our real estate agent didn't tell us that we were in a floodplain, or we asked our insurance agent about flood insurance, and they said we didn't need it, and things of that nature. Whereas the neighbors we spoke to said, if they would have asked us, we would have told them, floods here, maybe think twice.
You can't tell. It's not because you're near a pond or something. You really can't tell if you're in a floodplain.
That's right.
You've got to look it up. So if you get a chance, I don't know if you want to hold up that magazine, there's a lot of great information in this Popular Mechanics Survive Anything, and it tells you all kinds of things about buying a generator and supplying yourself with certain kinds of medications and making sure that your house is safe and don't let a tree fall on it. But
well, it even tells you how to measure the tree to know if
it's going to hit your
dangerous. If it'll hit your house. There is a way of measuring.
Yeah, this is a really, I appreciate you bringing this to my attention. This is a really good magazine issue, and it also talks about recovery information. We talk a lot about preparing for and responding to a disaster, but it talks about, what do you do afterwards? How do you know if it's safe to go inside and that type of thing?
Well, thanks, Dave, and
thank you.
We'll be right back.